Hello and welcome to the review of the most desirable Volkswagen Taigun variant, the GT Plus. This comes with a 1.5 litre turbo petrol engine paired to a DSG gearbox. Okay, let's talk about the front seat experience in the Taigun. Now, this is where I think Volkswagen drops the ball a little bit because the materials aren't what you would expect from a Volkswagen. The good bits are this center touchscreen, which is really good in terms of its response, in terms of how quickly it reacts to your inputs, and also it's very crisp. The display is amazing. In fact, if someone told me that this touchscreen has been designed by Apple, I wouldn't doubt them. This is that good. I know the screen in the Seltos is much bigger and that makes a difference, but the display of this touchscreen is really good. It's something you have to experience, and it just changes the entire environment inside the car. What isn't great is the virtual cockpit screen, which is smaller than what you would expect. It's not the entire width of this space. It has these blanks on the left and the right, but it has 3 views, so you can choose from what you want to see. Again, I don't think this is something that Volkswagen should have saved money on, but when you start driving it, you realize, okay, perhaps Volkswagen had to do it to deliver the ride and handling that it has. Otherwise, in terms of the climate control, some people do not like these touch sensitive climate control. I'm not a fan of these either, but again, I won't complain a lot because you are not going to change your AC settings every 5 seconds, so it's fine. A little bit of an inconvenience, but that's okay. One thing I have to add though is that the interior of the Taigun looks really good at night, especially due to the amazingly done red ambient lights. Okay, so let's talk about the rear seat experience in the Taigun. Now, as you can see, I've set this seat to my position. I'm 5'11" for reference, and I still have almost 4-5 inches of spare knee room. The seating position is really comfortable, and if I pull down this armrest, which is a little bit difficult because of the plastics, as this is a new car, but the overall seating position is amazing. The underthigh support is great. The view out from here, especially with the sunroof open, is really good. This is a cabin where you can easily cover long distances in, as long as there are 4 people in the car, maybe a kid additionally, but not more than that. And this is a really good place to be. You also have rear AC vents and charging ports for your phone, and this accessory that helps you put a lot of things here in the Taigun. Additionally, this also gets these sun blinds as an accessory. Again, this is a compulsory accessory. For some reason the dealer wasn't ready to budge on them, but we were actually thinking that they add value, so we got these accessories. One other unique observation I'd like to share is if the driver is pushing the Taigun a lot, especially the 1.5 TSI, above 4,500 RPM, there is a very peculiar noise that comes, and it's not the noise of engine revving. It's, I think, just that the acoustics haven't been done really well, and it gets a little bit annoying after a while. So if you are a passenger and the driver is pushing the Taigun, this is something that you will definitely notice. The first thing that you realize as soon as you start driving this is how much of a difference the paddle shifters make to the entire driving experience. These paddle shifters are really good in terms of their feel. They are immediate in terms of their action, and they just elevate the entire driving experience. I think in my Seltos review I had mentioned that in the Seltos, even if you change gears manually using the Tiptronic mode, even then the responses of the gearbox aren't as quick. But that's not the case here. Downshifts are served immediately in the Taigun. I'm not sure if the camera can capture it, but you can clearly hear the noise of the truck over there, right? That is a bit too loud, especially when all the windows are closed. So the insulation in the Taigun is definitely not something that is worthy of a 20 lakh rupee car. What the Taigun does really well is it masks the wind noise really well. That has been handled almost perfectly. What you also realize is how good this 1.5 liter turbo petrol engine is. Yeah, you cross into silly speeds even before you realize it. It serves power so effortlessly. It's super easy to overtake traffic, to make quick progress, and when you need a little bit more power, it's just a downshift away. The Taigun's engine feels a little bit more immediate than the one in the Seltos, and I think the low end response, especially below 3000 rpm, is where this engine is really good. Other interesting observation that I'd like to share is that the quality of the dashboard overall in terms of its plastics isn't great. It's something we have heard, we have perhaps experienced, but the things that the driver will interact with, they are really high quality. For example, the steering, this is finished in really good leather, and especially this perforated part, this is really well done. And even the buttons on the steering wheel are much high quality compared to the rest of the buttons that you'll find in the cabin. When it comes to the ride of the Taigun, I would say that this is perhaps one of the best riding SUVs in this segment. I would perhaps rate it very close to the Tata Harrier in terms of how it rides. Now, the Taigun isn't able to handle like really large potholes as well as the Harrier. The Harrier feels like really solid. That's in a different league there. But where the Taigun is actually better is in terms of low speed bumps in the city. This thing just absorbs them really well. The ride in the Taigun is also better than the Kia Seltos, because the overall setup that Volkswagen has gone for is to pair a really stiff chassis with slightly softer suspension. So what that means is that this is able to absorb low speed bumps, high speed bumps better than the Seltos for sure. I think one particular thing I'd like to highlight is because of the way the suspension in this car is set up, a stiff chassis paired with slightly softer suspension settings, what happens is the car handles quite well. It takes curves really well as well, but if you encounter mid-corner bumps, the car feels a little bit skittish, and at a lot of times the rear sort of moves around when you don't expect it to. This behavior was very peculiar, and I didn't face it in the Seltos, and it's not that I faced it just once perhaps in the Taigun. I'm seeing it multiple times. So I think they could have gone with a slightly stiffer rear suspension, because this behavior was with an empty rear seat and just a couple of bags in the boot. But if you have more people sitting in the rear, I think it wouldn't be as composed while facing mid-corner bumps. So I would have liked to see Volkswagen go a little bit stiffer on the rear suspension settings. Now, one very interesting point I'd like to make is, if you're in the market for a compact SUV, my honest suggestion would be to skip that crop of vehicles. I call it the chasm of mediocrity. That's where the compact SUVs live. I'd say that you wait, or perhaps spend a little bit more and buy a vehicle from this segment, the segment where Creta Seltos and Taigun are. The reason for that is the jump in what you pay is substantial, but the increase in the quality levels, the ride and handling maturity, the amount of space that you get in the car is way more. And I think that additional 3 or 4 lakhs actually buys you a vehicle that delivers 10-12 lakhs in value. And in terms of what these vehicles deliver, I think they're closer to what a 25, 30 or even 35 lakh rupee car deliver than to the compact SUVs. The reason you get such good value in this segment is because there is a lot of competition right now in this segment. There are these sort of smaller SUVs and then there are larger SUVs, and both the segments are heating up. And especially with the launch of vehicles like the XUV 700, the competition is only going to get up. So I'd say upgrade to this segment instead of settling for a compact SUV like the Sonnet or Venue or Nexon or even the Ford EcoSport. It's not available right now, but even if it were there, I'd say these are better vehicles. And the base variants of the Taigun or even the Creta or Seltos start very close to the compact SUV segment, and the difference between the package is huge. So my suggestion would be to take that money, put it into a mutual fund or however you invest in stocks or whatever, wait it out for some time and then buy the vehicle. And this is actually a really good moment, right? Right now the waiting periods are 6, 8 months, 10 months. So choose a vehicle from a segment higher and use that additional time to, you know, assemble some more cash to actually buy these cars. I remember when I had driven the BMW X1, the 3 Series, the Mercedes CLA or even the GLA a few years back, like 4 or 5 years back. I was blown away by the insulation, the cabin quality, the way these cars consumed miles and the way they accelerated was something else. But today you get all of that and maybe more in these 15-20 lakh rupee cars, and that's just amazing. Especially the Seltos and the Taigun, they come really close to these cars. If you're considering buying a 4 or 5 year old CLA or GLA or perhaps even the BMW X1, I would say buy a new Taigun instead or a new Seltos. These cars, they've changed the game because it's so competitive out there. Each of the players have had to do their best and it shows. One really annoying thing in the digital cockpit of the Taigun is that once you cross to 80 kph, the warning that you get, it takes over the tachometer. I find that super annoying. Like, it's as if the virtual cockpit is saying, like, I don't care what you're doing in your life. I don't care if you want to know if you're at the right RPM, if you're about to shift gears, if you're in the middle of a corner, whatever problems are there while driving the car, I'll just take that space and tell the thing that I want to tell. Now that notification could have come up in the middle without affecting the tachometer, maybe not show the fuel efficiency here or anything else, take away the speed perhaps, that's also fine because you're already showing that 80 kph thing. But it's very annoying to see that. The good thing is, since this is a Volkswagen, you can always pair it up with your computer and fix this. I'm sure someone has figured out how to do this. So the other thing where Volkswagen could have done a better job is the gear ratios. I feel that the gear ratios here are a bit too tall. For example, I'm in 4th, doing 90 kph. I start accelerating and I reach 120 at around 4,250 RPM. In fourth, I still have 3 more gears to go, so they could have definitely given this shorter ratios. I think this was done in interest of fuel efficiency, but this would have been an even better combination if they gave it a lot more closer ratios. Actually, this is too tall a gearing in my opinion. To conclude, I'd just like to say 3 things. One is, if you are a person choosing between the Seltos or Creta and the Taigun Kushaq, choose the Volkswagen Twins if you are into driving and you will spend the majority of your time changing gears manually or in the sport mode, all of those things. If not, you are perhaps better off with the Creta or the Seltos because they have more presence. You get a better feel-good factor there. But if you enjoy driving, this is definitely the better package. The second thing I'd like to say is, if you are considering a compact SUV, I'd say stretch your budget to this segment because this is definitely a couple of classes above. It's not just a few lakhs in terms of money, but in terms of the value it delivers, it's way more. And the third thing that I'd like to say is, the Seltos and the Taigun feel like the BMWs and Audi SUVs a generation back, and that's saying something. And getting that value at this price point because of the competition is simply amazing. So I really liked both these vehicles, the Seltos and the Taigun, and you should definitely consider them if you are looking in this segment. Now, all of my opinions on the Taigun are valid for the new vehicle that I'm driving right now. I'm not sure if you have seen my Volkswagen Polo review. That car was something else when I bought it. After 20,000 kilometers, the brakes weren't as good, the suspension had started developing issues, and the snappiness of the DSG gearbox wasn't as it was after 3-4 years. So I'm not sure how the Taigun will age since it's being bought by one of my relatives, so I should be able to monitor it, come back and visit it in a year or two's time. But this is only, all these opinions are only for the new Taigun. That's it from my end in this video. Thanks for watching.